Hey, friends. Welcome to Dishing on Divorce Tuesday edition on WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network Radio, Podcasts, and TV. I'm your host, Lisa Lisser, CEO and founder of LZL Coaching, a boutique coaching firm focused on divorce, relationships, and life transitions. I'm also a divorced mom of 3 now grown kids, a recovering lawyer, a current educator and spiritual counselor, and a divorce coach who's committed to transforming the divorce experience for everyone involved. As we launch into 2025, we have new opportunities and new challenges. This is that moment in the year when the days are short and the nights are long, and getting out of the house may feel harder than ever. It's also a time for new beginnings, new promises to ourselves, and resolutions about what we are going to do differently and how we can make that happen. This year could be the moment that you make the decision to put yourself first. It could be the year you decide to face your fears and move forward with divorce. One of the key elements that held me in place for many years was the fear that I was breaking up my family. My values told me that that marriage is supposed to be forever, but my experience was telling me it was time. What I needed was a support system to help me. And that's exactly what today's guest is all about. So I want to welcome Hope Lutz Firsel, a divorce coach for women. In addition to having her master's degree from the London School of Economics in organizational behavior, a degree as a life coach, training with rapid therapy training, and certified as a divorce specialist, Hope recently completed her dissertation and is now a certified feminine frequency business leader with Jessica Zweig. Now, I want to hear more about what that means, but I also want to welcome her. Hope offers wisdom from overcoming her own personal traumas, and she provides both private and group coaching via Zoom or in person. And her approach blends the strongest philosophies from both Eastern and Western cultures. In her sessions with you, she empowers her clients to determine the right plan for them, for how they are going to move through and get past divorce most effectively, efficiently, and full of their life energy. She believes that you can overcome anything. You just need a plan and a little hope.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Welcome.
Well, thank you for that beautiful introduction.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I only want to have special guests who are really leveling up what we do for people going through divorce. And healing is our theme. So that's what we're going to talk about today and how we can heal through the divorce coaching process. Share.
Yeah, no, what a perfect time, right, to talk about healing as we start the new year. And in order to have a full new beginning, we need to heal and we need to have created our boundaries and know what we're closing before we reemerge.
Right. You know, one of the quotes that I used in the chapter of the book that I wrote was, every beginning comes with another beginning's end. So we do have to close the door in order to open another door. And that's hard and that's scary.
Yes.
But that's really the power of what coaching allows us to do, rather than having every door open at the same time and feeling like there is no beginning. So let's get started. Let's get to know you, Hope.
Yes, I love that.
I always start by asking my guests, what's your story? What led you to do the work you're doing now?
Yeah, well, I would say my story began even in high school, where I started therapy for myself, talk therapy, and started attending support groups. Nothing out of the ordinary for myself, just a true passion for understanding who I was and how I had my own thoughts and beliefs. And went to the University of Wisconsin and got a minors in psychology. Could not get enough of the human mind and how humans can decide who they want to be in the face of change. And so after having my undergrad, I went to the London School of Economics and I studied for a good year and a half how organizations move through change. And so I was working with the C-suite leadership teams through mergers and acquisitions and startups, and really loving the one-on-one work that came from those leaders. So after working in corporate America for a few years on culture and employee retention and communications, I went deeper with a coaching degree and launched my own coaching business.
So
It was my own experience with divorce that allowed me to realize there was such a need, because there was so many unknowns for myself and for my clients and my friends, for women who perhaps were not the primary breadwinner, perhaps not involved in finances and legal, and now are facing this huge task, this undertaking, this huge change. So I've done everything I can to learn about the divorce process, because I really believe we can do better, that we can end marriages and start new lives with women who are full and complete and empowered. So we go back to raise healthy children, be successful neighbors, be business leaders and entrepreneurs and employees that are not devastated by that change, but rather have learned and grown and ready to give back to the world.
yeah, that's powerful. I mean, I love it for so many reasons. Like some things were triggered by what you just shared, but specifically the idea of women as entrepreneurs and even approaching our divorces as entrepreneurs, because we are planning the business of creating a new life. And I spent a lot of time today talking to two different clients about getting their financial houses in line so they understand where they're coming from. And this is about the seed funding for your new enterprise of your new life.
Yeah, I love that. I say be the C-suite, be the CEO of your own divorce. But, and it's very empowering. A lot of times when you're in a marriage, one person takes responsibilities for such and the other for the bills. And it's very, very rare couples that sit down at the table and have, Monday money night where they sit down and pay the bills together. So rather than facing the this big overtaking of becoming an entrepreneur, if you will, or a CEO, as coming from a place of doubt or even guilt, why was I not aware? How could I be so foolish? Rather to say, no, that was not my responsibility in that union, and today and moving forward, I am the CEO and I need to know where my feet are planted today, financially, emotionally, mentally. And
Yeah.
that's what us coaches do, right? We bring in the experts and help them get evaluated. So we're planning and manifesting something that's realistic.
Yeah. But it's also about the healing piece. When we tell our clients or share with our clients that everything wasn't their responsibility. Like in their marriage, there were different roles that each of you took on. And it doesn't mean that you failed because you didn't know the financial information. I had the experience during couples counseling before the divorce where the therapist said, "How come you didn't know where all the money was?" And I find that that's pretty common.
Yeah.
And many women, and it didn't, I mean, I had a master's degree. I was a lawyer. I did a lot of very financial business before my marriage and before I had kids. But when you're in the day to day of raising your family, each person is in a different lane. It's not
Yes.
so woven together. And it's something that we need to sort of forgive ourselves for if we're giving ourselves judgment.
Yes, there's no shame. And I had a lot of that shame too. And I contributed equally. It was, a marriage is an equal union, and you all had different roles and different responsibilities. And I had the same knee jerk reaction. And I was with one of my coaches saying, how am I going to do this? Manage this home, manage the children, discipline the children, and keep the lights on. And, we uncover a little bit, and she says, wait, you have a master's from the London School of Economics? You can do this. And I remember that pivot where I was like, okay, yeah, I can do this. I
Yeah.
can do this. And so can anyone else who may be listening.
That's great. That's a great reminder, because we need to have those aha moments where we shift our mindset. And so much of coaching is about mindset shifts. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about your experience that sort of led to your understanding of how women are experiencing what goes on in divorce?
I would say it was with my first experience as I entered a divorce a few months before COVID is when we separated. And so when I started to connect with other women, friends of friends, and I started to create a community for myself, and then we were in COVID, so all of that was done digitally at home by myself, but connecting, I realized that I wasn't alone,
Hmm.
that there was such a community of women who also felt guilt or shame for not having their arms around it, for feeling very overwhelmed by the process. And now that I'm a few years back, I can look above and say, of course it's overwhelming. It is a huge change. It is a huge legal and financial change. And experts with 25 years are, trying to debate and figure it out. So it is a big trauma, and having gone through infertility and cancer, I can say divorce is a huge life trauma. To honor that, to find a place to get calm, to find stillness, and then to get educated. And I like to connect my clients with the right financial expert or legal expert or what have you as they make sense of their current state.
Yeah. So how do you think your story, where, I'm just heard the hint of your personal challenges, which we all as women have experiences. They may be infertility, it may be cancer, and it may be any number of things. But how do you take that experience and then level it up to understand how that can improve your coaching and support other women?
Yeah, great questions. So for me, I like to think when I'm in my moments and being tested, it's like I'm doing the work so I can share the work. And so then whoever I may touch, whether it's one client or a group in my virtual group of 6 women, that my lesson is not lost on me. That having faced cancer, I know that my biggest gift is what memories I leave behind and how I can touch people. So my biggest hope and dream is to help other women by telling them they're not alone and helping them find the education in the community where they might. And together to come out stronger and to be ready to become real entrepreneurs, to get back in the workforce if you have left it, to make peace with the life that is, because many of us are going to have some downsizing of some sort, right? Even the wealthiest of wealthy, we're separating into two. Lifestyles will change, dynamics change, how you communicate and who you show up in the world are going to change. And that's why I love what we do, because we are helping to be that lifeline during that storm.
And so much of it is about helping our clients identify who they are underneath the story of their marriage, who they are underneath the story of their divorce, and who they were before. What were the skills? What were the talents? What were the passions that lit them up before they entered the marriage even? So they can remember who they were before they took on a different role. And it's not about going backwards, but it's about using those talents as a launch pad into their future.
Mhm.
So,
Exactly right. It's like an end of a union, but it is a reintroduction to yourself, to the essence of who you are as
right.
an individual before you became a union.
Yeah. I mean, we hope that we don't lose ourselves completely when we're engaged in a relationship. And that's not our goal. But sometimes the story of what's going on in our marriage overtakes us and we start to forget. And so tell us a little bit about your coaching process and how you work with your clients to help them remember who they are.
Yeah. So I have created the Divorce Empowerment Program, and it's a 6-week program. And we start with exactly where you're talking. It's figuring out who we are, the essence of us, behind the legal issues, the financials, the fighting, the stories, behind all that, who is our essence? And I do that with mindfulness tools that we do on Zoom or in person, and journaling and finding what works for each client or each group. And then once we get clear on who we want to be, we figure how is that going to show up in the face of co-parenting, in the face of telling our children about this change, in the face of, facing the neighborhood and the community as a divorcee. So we work through that process. And what I like to do is bring in experts as it's appropriate. So some of my clients are very focused on dating again, perhaps they're at a different point in this process, and some are just looking for the lawyer to decide if they're gonna go through with it. So that's why my programs are very flexible depending on who I'm working with. But I have a career coach, I have a dating coach, I have a financial coach, and all of them available to my clients complimentary as we shift through what's the top 3 issues that this client is facing, and we tackle that in those 6 weeks.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. So I'm going to ask you some more questions about your program after we take this 30-second break. So we'll be right back. And we're back with Hope Firsel, life coach and all-around amazing healer. So I created that title.
I love it.
So I wanted to dig in a little bit more because one of the things you just mentioned were all the different professionals that you bring into your coaching program. And very often clients feel like they're alone in the process, right? They feel like maybe they can't talk to their friends about this, or maybe they talk to their friends and their friends are just giving them information that's confusing and different, and it doesn't feel right for them. It might have been right for someone else. But part of the value of a divorce coach is that she is like that center hub where you get all your information and then you can branch out to meet all the professionals that you might need based on your needs at that particular moment. I sometimes refer to it like a primary care physician, where primary care physician looks at you holistically and then helps you evaluate what needs to get touched on first and who do you need support from. So tell me more about how you bring that into your work, especially if it's a workshop and everybody's at a different place.
Yeah, well, I try, I have groups that are, a group of 6 is the most, and I like to form those around people that are at similar places in their journey. And my workshops are 1-day events, and those are offshoots. So in my coaching, we're really going to get clear on what this individual or this very small group may need. And I've spent the last 4 years in the divorce professional world creating collaborations and working with professionals. So I feel that I have a good grasp on what is out there. And I also, to your point, am crystal clear in my role as the project manager or the primary caregiver, because in no way should I be giving the financial or legal, or when we get to the mortgage or we get to long-term care, the professionals, I honor their expertise. I know that then I'm going to take that information with my client, and then we're going to work on it from an emotional and from a task perspective. I really, really honor the deep experts and think that coaches will serve best by helping hold their hand through those informational meetings and discussions, but not to ever try to, suggest that I would be an expert in such fields.
Right. I mean, and I can hear that that's not what you do, but what you're doing is acknowledging that, look, we're not all experts at everything. And we don't have to be. That's why there are other people who have expertise in other things. And
Yeah.
so our job is to call out, where's your biggest question? What's your biggest issue now? What are you most afraid of? And then dig into the fear so you could figure out, okay, how can I help my client address this and educate themselves up? I always
Yeah.
call it educating yourself up,
I love
because
that.
that's the scariest part of divorce, is the
Yeah.
not knowing. And the black hole of what is out there is the biggest fear.
Yeah. And you had mentioned sometimes you will reach out to friends who maybe have been through a divorce. And while community is very important, we have to be careful because we don't want to compare, so every divorce is different. So sometimes it can exhilarate notions that are unrealistic.
Yeah.
So a coach is going to be able to provide the professional, status quo, if you will. And it's just critical as a coach that we know what our status quo is. Where are we today? And I've become familiar with some of the apps that are out there and some of the tools and free resources. So in a very quick amount of time, we can overcome that anxiety by getting some real facts, some real figures, and knowing what we're dealing with. And that's why I love working in divorce. Having overcome health crises, it's a little more complicated and a lot more unknown, certainly. So in the divorce world, usually we can get some idea of the nature of today.
Right. Now that's a great observation, because, and it's based on your experience, because there are certain things in life that we don't have any answers to. And we have to sort of lean into releasing that unknowing, the not knowing. But there are other things that we have the power to learn about, and to be able to get a sense of what's allowed here, what am I entitled to here, what do I actually want here. Maybe this entitled thing is not what I should be thinking about, but what do I want and what do I need? And then how can I communicate that in a mediation or in a negotiation, or even telling my lawyer?
A- Absolutely. And that's what it is. Looking at the information, and then there's so many people talking to you during a divorce. So getting it all quiet with your coach and getting still and then figuring out really what isn't important. And if you have children, then it's very easy to say what's important is a stable, safe home.
Yeah.
And
Well,
how do we define that?
right, it's about safeguarding childhoods, right? That's what it's about. And so often, and I just told this to someone else, like, the children get put in the middle, when in fact the children need to be the center. And it's not the same thing, being the center or being pulled in the middle.
Mm,
So,
beautiful. Yeah,
so
absolutely.
and I'm sure that this is where your work is focused on, like, when parents can start looking at the situation that, yes, we are going to be separate and living in separate spaces, but we have this shared enterprise of raising our children. And so it doesn't serve our goal for us to continue the fight. So let's
Yes,
take that relationship and put it on a fence, and or put it on a shelf. And we're going to start a whole new relationship. That's the business of raising these kids. So that's part of, I'm sure, how you communicate with your clients about their needs and wants.
absolutely. And this putting it on the shelf, I actually have partnered with an AI tool where you can put in email and text exchanges. You can put in a journal prompt. And while it's still a computer, we have some idea of what kind of personalities we're all dealing with and what kind of drama there may be so that we can more easily put it to the side. Not to blame or to shame, or just to understand what type of energy forces are we working with. Oh, okay. Yeah, of course you're going to respond that way. Or of course he's going to respond that way. And becoming crystal clear with who we're working with and who we are and what kind of union we had created. And as you said, put a stop on that, to
Yeah.
stop all that, to box it up, to come back to it perhaps, and move through the divorce process, which requires just so much of your time and energy on legal, financial, communications, and tactical.
I love this idea that you just raised, that you take the information and use an AI tool to help you guesstimate what the response might be. Now, you know the person better than anyone else, so you can describe the person to the AI and then share what's going on to try and get a sense. You want people to use people. That's the most important, but it can be empowering to feel like you have answers that are allaying your fears.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know that the app that a lot of my families use, and now it's
Is it Our Family Wizard?
yeah. So our family wizard, I'm so sorry, I adore them too. So our family wizard has an AI feature now where it will tell you, oh, if you write that, let's rewrite it if you're trying to give this message versus this message. It's very constructive. It's very helpful, particularly as we say when we're working with children.
Yeah, that's huge. So tell me a little bit about why you find that I'm shifting focus, but tell me why you find that your small groups have such an impact in your coaching.
Yeah, I have found that a lot of my clients have a really good 1 or 2 session alone, and then they lose momentum, and then they get swallowed back up in the wave of life and in the wave of the drama of what is life. And in a divorce, there's a lot going on. It's a perfect storm. So I have found that when we're in a small community, and like I had said, I really try to work on getting my groups with women who are in a similar point of life. You're able to, from their light, shine your light more, from their story, from their experience that's guided by a coach as we move through that 6-week process. Empower each other, find friendship, find community, and you can see someone fully if you've walked in their shoes, right? And that's why there's so much healing in community.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you just said about you can see someone when you walk in their shoes. It's like hearing these stories help you understand a full picture. And very often in my coaching, I'm working in a co-parenting training program, and we invite the co-parents to step into each other's shoes so
Mm.
they could actually see each other as human.
Oh, I
Because
love that.
so often we feel like we're objects that they're trying to change, or they're objects that we're trying to change. And the fact is, we can't change anyone except for ourselves. And so once we start to realize who the other is, we can develop like a strategic empathy
Yes,
and really,
absolutely.
and that's also, you train for that in these small groups, because all of a sudden you're having a natural empathy and a natural compassion for women who are going through the same thing.
Yeah, it's so powerful. And I even since my undergrad, I have always been really enamored with women empowerment. And when there's nothing like bringing a small group of women together, we can do anything.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And I also love all the connections, because, many of us in the divorce coaching world have had our own experiences of divorce. And we all feel like we want to push it forward. We want to step into the role of helping other women who are following in our path. Because for me, there was no one there. And for many people, you just don't know because you're so afraid, and you get closer and closer in. So you need that spiritual connection of engaging with others. And that's what I hear is coming through with your small groups. So
Yeah.
so I'm wondering, what would be a key takeaway that you'd like to give our audience?
I feel today most empowered to tell our audience wherever you are in this very moment, you can find gratitude.
Mm,
So, in the biggest storm, there is always something to find gratitude for. So, if you are contemplating a divorce or in it or just starting to get onward and upward, we can take a moment to find gratitude in our breath, in our body and the people around us, perhaps in our shelter and there's something beautiful to be had in every moment. So rather than getting really anxious about the future or depressed about the past, let's try to get into the moment of gratitude.
I love that. And it's so hard sometimes, as you said, for our clients to feel gratitude, because you can be in a why me space. It's very easy to fall into that. And very often it's not just that you're feeling like a victim, but you've been victimized, which is a different thing. And so we have to honor that experience, but at the same time, empower our clients to move forward and to recognize that they have the power to move forward. And
Yes, no, that's such a good distinction, that if you've been victimized, and that's a nature of a relationship that you owned, no shame but that takes healing. That doesn't mean you're having a sad moment where you're self-involved, and lost in your own self. No, you're actually healing from a previous a previous relationship. And so we have to give that space and then educate and communicate and find community to then be empowered.
right. So that's what, so you said a couple things just there. We have to heal. We have to give space. We need to help educate. And then that education empowers our clients. So it's like we have all these different tools in this coaching space. And it sounds like your story is one that started from that kind of journey, looking for answers to questions you weren't sure about where the answers were.
Yeah.
And then moving forward and looking at how an organization works is like a great model for us, because the leadership information that's out there, all of the leadership wisdom, whether it's Simon Sinek's Start With Your Why or William Urey's Possibilities, like we have possibilities. And even when we feel like it's so dark, we can walk forward. And that's what you do with your groups. And that's what I try to do for my clients. And it's a different kind of experience than running into a lawyer's office. Because if you do that without any prep, you're leaning into the fear and you're leaning into the unknown. So I always encourage my potential clients to start by taking stock, and then you can move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like if you were going to go see a doctor, or you're going through a merger and you're going to go meet the other side, you're going to take a moment to make a list of questions, to be prepared for that meeting, to what you want to communicate and what you want to ask. And a divorce is the exact same.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much for sharing what you do, how you do it, what your groups are like, what this product is, and share with my audience how they can find you.
Yeah, so I'm Hope Firsel. You can find me at Hope Firsel, or my cell phone. I take text messages, and those interested in small groups, just text me small group. I'm at 773-848-9349.
That's great. Thank you so much, Hope. And for all my clients or my audience out there, you can always reach me at lzlcoaching.com, and you can book a free 30-minute consult so we can talk about what's going on with you. I look forward to the next time we meet. Thanks again, Hope. And this is Lisa Lisser on Dishing on Divorce.